Hello and welcome to the big question on NDTV Profit. I'm Vikram Oza. Bihar has gone to polls today in the first phase of its two-stage assembly election, and this time the stakes go far beyond Patna. The state that sends millions of its people out to power India's factories, India's farms and cities, now finds itself again at a crossroads. Over 7.4 crore voters of Bihar include 14 lakh first-time voters, and they together are going to decide the fate of 243 assembly seats. Yes, the results of Bihar elections will be out on the 14th of November, and this time around it's going to be crucial. The Bihar elections, we are going to see this direct contest between the NDA, led by Nitish Kumar and the Bharatiya Janata Party, and of course the Mahagathbandhan, which is led by Tejasvi Yadav and the Congress. And then there is Prashant Kishore's Jan Suraj Party that adds this new dimension to this entire fight taking place in battleground Bihar. So at the heart of this battle lie two burning economic questions. There is employment and migration. And that plays out against the backdrop of Bihar's per capita income. The per capita income of Bihar remains among the lowest in India. It's just 32,000 rupees, which makes it less than a third of the national average, of India's average. 32,000 rupees is the per capita income of Bihar. The state ranks last on the Employment Condition Index. And despite the progress the state may have made, a third of Bihar's population is still living in poverty. So yes, both the main alliances, they're promising jobs, they're promising skills and development on those counts. From the NDA's pledge to create 1 crore jobs and setting up skill centers in every district, you also have Mahagathbandhan's vow of 1 government job per family and also unemployment allowances. Now the question is, will this election actually change the future of Bihar's workforce? Or is it going to be simply a recycling of old promises that have been made to them in the past? Which is our big question tonight. Bihar at the ballot, will this election change the future of India's migrant workforce? And joining us this evening is our panel of experts. Let me introduce you to them. Tonight on the show, we have Ashok Malik, who is partner and India chair at the Asia Group. And indeed, we have for political analysis, we are going to turn to Aarti R. Jairath tonight. To get a social development perspective, we have Ashish Ranjan joining us this evening. And also with us is the human resources angle, Aditya Mishra, the Managing Director of CL HR Services, also with us. Great to have you with us and a very good evening. First, my question to you, Mr. Malik. Like I started out by saying, Bihar's per capita income is 32,000 rupees, which is less than a third of the national average. Why, in your opinion, has it lagged so much, though the state is arguably the largest exporter of workforce to the rest of the country?
Thank you for having me. My figures for Bihar's per capita income are a little higher. Having said that, you're quite right. It is about 1/3 of the national per capita income. And at the beginning of the century, it was 40%. So actually, as India has become richer, Bihar has actually stagnated relative to the rest of India, if not come down. The remittance economy is very important to Bihar. Bihar is the receptacle of India's demographic dividend or population bulge, depending on how you see it. India's workforce, largely blue-collar workforce, comes from Bihar and Eastern UP and to some degree Bengal. The remittance economy contributed when Mr. Nitish Kumar came to power in 2005, 35% of household income in Bihar. Today, by some estimates, it is over 60%, maybe even 66%. That will continue, to be honest, because I don't think Bihar can create the jobs necessary for its booming workforce, for its very teeming workforce, for its very large youth population. Remember, Bihar cannot really become an industrial superpower. It lacks the minerals needed for it. Once it lost South Bihar or Jharkhand, that story became more and more difficult to achieve. But one thing Bihar and its government which comes to office needs to focus on, it has focused on primary healthcare, primary education, but it needs to get skilling and education to move up the value chain. Bihari workers go out to other parts of the country. They don't go abroad as much because they're still stuck with doing the lowest level jobs. They have to be skilled for higher level jobs. If you look at the example of Kerala, very different state, I appreciate that, but with socio-developmental indicators that allowed the Kerala worker who went to say the Gulf states or Bihar or Dubai to move up from the lowest level jobs to up the value chain. And that really should be the aim for Bihar's demographic uh, sort of resource and its young
Does
population.
that
And
need to
that
be
is
the
something
aim? It's a very good question
that
to
is
ask.
something that is something the government needs to work on.
The government needs to work on perhaps an objective to educate the masses more. Aarti Jairath, would you consider this? Because for the longest time, the state of Bihar has been caught in all this arithmetic around caste and coalition politics. Has the narrative shifted enough towards jobs and dipping into economic opportunity? Whether we find job opportunities for the workforce abroad or the rest of the country, has the narrative changed with what you've heard in the campaigning in this election?
You know, Bihar is one of those states which actually had a social revolution quite some time ago, many, many decades ago, under Karpuri Thakur. He was the first chief minister who talked about reservations for the sort of lower castes and so on. Unfortunately, he did not last very long, and Bihar went back to the Congress, and the Congress, has been largely upper caste dominated party. Full of people who own huge, huge tracts of land. I mean, I think one of the first things the Bihar government needs to do is proper land redistribution, because the upper caste there own like thousands of acres of land, way above the land, limit. And, if they were to start redistributing the land, maybe people would actually find livelihood and work. They would be able to live off the land and, be able to make money there. But yes, I think to get back to the question that you asked, I was actually very surprised to find that the bread and butter issues like jobs, healthcare, education actually took center stage this time. There was less talk about caste, although, mind you, caste is, I think, the backbone of Bihar. It's very, very much, seeped into its skin of the society, really. And, and you can see how each alliance has got all these small caste-based parties, put them together, to like a political chessboard, to be able to get as many groups into their net as possible.
Yes.
But yes, it is very interesting that this time there was far less polarization talk. You remember there was that one election where they talked about firecrackers being burst in Pakistan. So this time there's been far less of that, and everybody has actually raised basic issues in Bihar. Now, the point is that, whichever government comes in, I think the onus is going to really be on delivery, because once you've raised expectations and aspirations, obviously the government that comes next will have this challenge of delivering.
Yes.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that front.
Well, let's take that question across to the political economist joining us in this discussion. Kartikeya Batra is joining us. He, of course, assistant professor in economics at the Azim Premji University. Good to have you with us as well. In this entire discussion, an important point being raised, Ashok Malik was quick in pointing out that there is an opportunity, an economic opportunity, comparing the state of Bihar to what Kerala has done. Yes, hugely different, but in terms of the ability of the workforce to look for opportunities beyond Indian shores. Is that the opportunity, or do you think it is important for Bihar to create the infrastructure and the industry to retain its workforce? Where do you stand on that?
No, I think, Vikram, it's a very simple answer, which is that Bihar has to sustain its own growth. It has to, of course, as you said, it's the biggest supplier of labor to the entire country. But at the same time, migration for labor, for these purposes, at the level at which it happens from Bihar, is not a very happy experience for those who are migrating. If you go to the field and talk to people, they'll tell you how they're going to Mumbai and Ahmedabad and they're working there renting out single rooms, staying away from their families for 10 or 12 months. And they come back, and then you know what happened during the Chhat Puja, for example. Look at the state of the trains, for example. It's so crowded. So all these humanitarian angles also have to be considered. So if you ask a Bihari right now what they want, they don't want to go outside Bihar. They don't want to go outside Indian shores also. Why would they? They have established families here. They have established social networks here. What they don't have is the right opportunity to engage in economic activity. I am currently in the field, Vikram, as I speak to you, I am in the Saharsa region, which is the Mithilanchal region of Bihar. And if you ask people, what they ask is that Rozgar is the biggest problem. And it's a problem that they've almost kind of given up on, Vikram, and that's kind of the saddest part.
Right.
You know, there's Maslow's hierarchy. You are a business journalist, you would know that.
Yes.
So in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have physiological needs and we have security needs. And I think a lot of Bihar is still stuck on the security needs part of it.
Right.
We talk about caste, but why does caste exist? Why do these caste-based voting patterns exist? We have to understand that Bihar after independence had a lagged start because of the remnants of the zamindari system in Bihar. And once that happened, it took Bihar a lot of time to come out of the social turmoil. The revolution of the 90s, where the OBCs and the Dalits, they came on the scene. You know, we might think of it in different ways, but if you ask them, it was an inflection point in Bihar. But of course, Mandal politics did not fructify the way it should have beyond the point. And then you had a post-Mandal scenario where Nitish Kumar kind of took on the baton in terms of catering to the EBCs and the Mahadalits. But that is where it stops. Even today, the division between the EBCs and the Yadavs exists. The division between the Mahadalits and the Paswans exists. The division between the Agada and the Pichada exists. And that has deep roots. Bihar needs very strong shock therapy.
So Bihar has been caught up for a very long time in the kind of caste politics and the rhetoric. Every election seems to be centered around that. The livelihood kind of security that a state of Bihar needs, it has eluded the state for so long. Ashish Ranjan, can you help us understand why that has happened? Tejasvi Yadav, now in this election, promising one government job per family. The NDA says it's going to create 1 crore jobs. Are these promises feasible to you? How desperate is the population right now for that livelihood security?
Thank you for having me. First of all, the society is never stagnant and there's earning for change. And the change happens, whether political change, social change, small changes at the ground, that also gives us hope. One thing that is mentioned again and again in this program is about caste. And it seems as if Bihar is the only state where caste matters. I think caste and communal politics is very strong all over the country. And where the caste is weak, communalism comes into the play. So that's the reality of our society today. And caste is a reality. You know, you can guess anybody's name, anybody's caste by the surname. And we marry within the caste. This has been a very old social structure. And the Mandal era it's kind of turned the things around for the backward classes where they got the reservations. And there was really earning for change and earning for social equality. And the politics of social justice was really a forceful politics which happened. Yes. And that has gone as far ahead. I wouldn't say that, you know, looking at the numbers, you would say that Bihar is very poor and all, and stagnant and things like that. But I think the Mandal politics for the first time gave poor the voice, the strength. Right. I remember my childhood days when I used to go to my villages, and it was very kind of sad to see that so-called lower caste people could not even sit at par with the so-called upper caste people. So that kind of change has happened. Is still a large part of the society, and survey after survey has revealed, even the last caste and economic census revealed that 2/3 of our Bihari population earn less than 10,000 rupees per month. Yes. So that is the reality, and that is the social structure.
So it's important to do a reality check over here. If Bihar is sending out skilled workers, semi-skilled workers to the rest of the country. Aditya Mishra, perhaps you can tell us, you watch employment trends across the country. How has their demand changed? What's the outlook for the kind of workers who go out of Bihar to several industries around the country?
Well, I think education level of the people there and the amount of exposure that people have is very, very limited there. So the kind of jobs that they can be absorbed into in the other metros are basically in construction, in warehouses, in supply chain systems, the delivery systems, and all of that. So it's practically the bottom of the pyramid of the jobs where value is being created. So I think the central issue for Bihar has been the quality of education, quality of healthcare, and the economic development in general. That is why it is in a little bit of a cycle that since the economic development is not happening, there are not enough employment opportunities being created. For example, if there are large factories are set up there, then even if blue collar work jobs get created there, then there will be development automatically taking place. The next generation of those people who will earn above the minimum wages will get better education because of the factories, better schools, better hospitals. All of this will get developed there. I think the participation of the private sector has been very limited, and there has been a lot of disparity in the way the development has taken place. So what we as a company normally do, we see that people from Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and some of these areas where the job opportunities are limited tend to move to the places where job opportunities are there. So we as a company source candidates from Bihar. We have sourcing hubs in Bihar from where we get candidates into those warehouses or apparel companies, very few in retail industry, but that's the kind of jobs which are practically in the bottom of the pyramid.
So bottom of the pyramid jobs is what the workforce from Bihar is going for. Ashok Malik, what stops the state from creating that ecosystem, an entrepreneurial ecosystem? So far, we haven't seen that happen. The state remains a supplier of human capital. And I'm seeing the numbers over here. They have been doing so for a long period of time. But is that going to go on indefinitely, or you see an entrepreneurial culture, which, I mean, at a central level, we're talking about a Viksit Bharat 2047. The goals are being set. So why are some states like Bihar lagging so much that we're not talking about that, and we're still talking about exporting workforce, and that too at the bottom of the pyramid, like Aditya Mishra is pointing out?
Look, I think we shouldn't simplify this predicament and this problem. It's not that people from Bihar don't have an entrepreneurial culture or they have not set up businesses, including successful businesses both in India and other parts of the world. But there are conditions in Bihar. There is a geographical limitation of Bihar. It's landlocked. It lacks, as I said, minerals ever since Jharkhand was partitioned. Those are issues you can't wish away. Agriculture remains a mainstay of Bihar. There is limited scope for growth in agriculture and in agro-based industries. Makhana, lychee, maize, these are crops that have delivered and can deliver, but there's a limit beyond which they cannot go. For the foreseeable future, Bihar's biggest resource is its human capital, is extremely hardworking people. I have seen people from Bihar work at all levels, especially at the blue-collar level. I have seen them across the country. In Tamil Nadu, I once ran into two young men from Bihar running a petrol pump and speaking Tamil. You can see them from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, literally. And that is a great strength. They are helping build India. But as was pointed out by some of the other speakers, it is a bit disappointing that they remain limited to the lowest level jobs, the food delivery, construction, and so on. One, we have to enable them to move up the value chain. Once they move up the value chain, they might well become job seekers within Bihar or create jobs in Bihar. Well and good. But the investments, public investments in skilling, in upskilling, in education uh, have to be a priority for the next government.
So-
Bihar has achieved a lot in the past 20 years in primary healthcare and primary education, sending girls to school up to a certain level, agreed. But for the sort of jobs the modern economy demands, it's important to push even further ahead because the people of Bihar deserve it.
So this raising them on the value chain, how important a task is it now for the government? If you're going out asking for votes, Aarti Jairath, what about this argument the double engine growth argument that has been made? When you're talking about manufacturing, you're talking about private investment into Bihar, what's missing in the governance or the policy framework that has kept investors away from Bihar so that Biharis are rising in that value chain?
Well, one problem with Bihar is the lack of infrastructure.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, nobody is going to invest in a state where you don't have, you do have, I think Nitish Kumar did do, a fairly creditable job in building roads and, sort of giving electricity supply. But there are large areas of Bihar which don't have this infrastructure. To build that infrastructure is going to take time and it's going to take resources. So I think to expect investment to flow into Bihar to establish manufacturing is, it's going to take a very, very long time. One big problem with Bihar is that although there were two phases to the social revolution. One was, of course, the politics of social justice started by Karpuri Thakur when the Janta Party came to power in 1977. It fell very soon, and therefore it, could not fructify into something more. And then came the big Mandal revolution in 1990 when Lalu Yadav became chief minister.
Correct.
And suddenly, the sort of backward caste found a voice for themselves. But, that social revolution has to percolate all the way down
Yes.
to the EBCs. Right now, yes, Nitish Kumar did carve out this, constituency of EBCs.
Right.
But it subsisted largely on doles from the government.
Exactly.
Sort
Central
of
funds.
monthly benefits and so on and so forth. There was not enough investment made in educating them,
Correct.
in providing, health infrastructure so that they could become healthy workers.
Correct.
Or in providing skills for them to become, to be able to contribute to, income building and, values.
Yes.
So that is the problem.
So-
and that social revolution
Yes.
is still kind of stuck at the middle level.
Correct.
It needs to percolate all the way down.
That didn't happen. Ashish Ranjan, that did not happen. Social fabric, when you have so much migration that has taken place, it's bound to have a certain kind of impact on the social economy of the state. How exactly has that worked out? Are they kind of banking on the remittances that do happen in the state of Bihar when the workforce goes out? Or has it damaged the social fabric of the state?
No, equality never damages the social fabric. In fact, it stabilizes it. And you are right that Bihar is mostly dependent on remittance economy, especially in the rural area. And that is why there is a great demand for trains. And government is also focusing on trains and not on jobs. That's why, in the previous term, Nitish Kumar was asking for special status for Bihar. That did not go anywhere. I think looking at the situation of Bihar, we need special status because for capital to flow in, it's very difficult for private capital to flow in at this point of time. So what we need is help from the state, and Bihar doesn't have that kind of money. The Bihar just doled out 10,000 rupees just before the election to about 1 crore women. So this is the kind of politics that is happening now. What we need is a sustainable long-term vision where Bihar can stand on its feet. And, Makhana board, that is a welcome step. Agro-based industry, that is a welcome step.
Sure.
But there's a larger crisis of capitalism here where even if you pour in capital, you don't create jobs. So we are kind of stuck somewhere and we are earning for change.
Right.
One thing is for sure that central government has a lot to invest in Bihar because they are sending out, last time they sent out 30 MPs for NDA Alliance. And Bihar has not got its worth for that kind of political support to the Modi government.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, Ashok Malik, I want to ask you, before we wrap up this discussion, if you had to have a convincing argument that this election truly marks a turning point for India's migrant workforce, what would that be? What would convince you that that's what is going to happen?
Look, that obviously I'm not convinced. I'm simply trying to be optimistic and hopeful. Bihar contributes disproportionately to India's workforce. Not the Bihari migrant workforce contributes to the building of India across the country. It is important for India. It is important for Bihar, of course, but it is also important for India that this workforce be nurtured, be given greater capacities, so that it can help build not just Bihar's economy and family economies, but India's economy. So I do believe that upskilling of workers, better healthcare for workers, better physiological and physical capacity for workers, which is an all-India challenge, is acutely a Bihari challenge. We owe it to Bihar, we owe it to the people of Bihar, we owe it to our country to make it happen. If Bihar fails to develop, if Bihar's people fail to develop, we are all losers. It's not just Bihar that is a loser. You and I are also losers.
So when the vote comes out, on counting day, when we have the final vote that is out, it's going to be very important to watch whether this is going to be about Bihar's economic aspiration or is it still going to boil down to political loyalties. And that's where we're going to leave this tonight, because the aspirations on the economic front are huge, as they are for the rest of the country. Bihar is no different. It does, of course, as far as political stakes are concerned, it's a test of whether India's most mobile workforce can finally find opportunity at home. And we've got some sharp insights tonight, from the economics of job creation to the politics of aspiration. And it's quite obvious that what happens in Bihar does not stay in Bihar. It shapes how a large part of India works, earns and moves. A big thank you to our panelists, Aarti Jairath, Ashok Malik, Kartikeya Batra, Ashish Ranjan, Aditya Mishra. Thank you for joining us with your perspectives on this edition of The Big Question. And that's where we're wrapping it up tonight. Of course, the questions continue until the last vote is counted. India's aspirations when it comes to achieving more on the economic front through the workforce and through jobs is something that we're tracking very closely. There'll be several questions related to that, and we'll keep bringing it up on The Big Question. I'm Vikram Oza from me and the team. Thank you for joining us. Good evening.